Welcome to this month's Desk Side Chat. Our topic for this month is, do you have a plan B? And our featured guest this month is Jason Kuehn. Jason and I worked together back at LPL. Jason, you were with business development. I would like for you to talk a little bit about your background and actually talk about your attire as well. And Jason has, like me, left LPL and has started his own organization, Arlington Group. And where this topic came from, having a plan B, this is really central to what we are doing in terms of the Good Advisors Finish First community, and really what this cause is all about. There's a lot of things that we're doing, peer collaboration, advisor to advisor, but a big part of that is making sure that we have this very wide net cast to begin with. Everyone is invited to participate in our community. And that's extremely important because there's oftentimes advisors don't realize that the wool is being pulled over their eyes until, unfortunately, it's too late. And I was thinking about all the different examples I could give on people who didn't necessarily have a plan B that should have. And there's lots of different scenarios. But one thing that I always try to relay in all of my roles in terms of working with advisors is it doesn't hurt to pick up the phone on a Friday afternoon, 3:00, if a recruiter calls, if for no other reason than to keep your current firm honest. And it doesn't, and I say Friday, 3:00, because obviously the moment you put your arms in the air, the wolves are going to come out. Jason, you don't mind being categorized as a wolf, or you're kind. Just kidding. But it obviously, you put your hand in the air and you're going to get a lot of calls. So you got to be judicious and smart with your time. But at the same time, it's important to be open to the idea of what else is out there and really have a plan B. So I want to get into that topic really quick for anyone who is new to Good Advisors Finish First. If you want to learn more about what we're about, what we're doing, just simply go to goodadvisorsfinishfirst.com. So Jason, before we jump into that topic, again, I'd like for you to give a little background on yourself and then maybe start by talking about your attire for today. Like I said, I normally only dress up for these first of the month, or at least put a coat on. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, thank you so much for having me on today, John. And my daughters were not ready to let go of Halloween, so they asked me to wear my costume to work today. And so I'm a Minnesota hockey dad. And yeah, so hopefully some of you all might still have your costumes on too from last night. But anyway,
what you need is you need the beard. So when I ran in, so Jason's a hockey dad like me. We ran into each other. I didn't even recognize you when you had a beard the one time. So we need to.
It's coming. It's coming. I go to Florida in a couple of weeks, so let me get some sunshine on this face, and then I'll get the beard going.
Nice.
So, but anyway, little background on where I came from, where I'm at, and kind of where I'm going. So, I originally was brought out to Minnesota about 10 years ago to wholesale for a large insurance-based firm and try to build out their mutual fund channel. And I got to meet a lot of amazing people, amazing advisors, wealth managers, and really started to build a really big relationship with LPL advisors. And the opportunity to become the vice president of business development, or AKA the corporate recruiter, came about. And it was an awesome time as any to join LPL. I mean, there's been some incredible growth, and you throw in COVID and a lot of different dynamics that have changed in the marketplace in a really short amount of time. And so, you know, I got a deep knowledge and understanding of how this industry truly works and what's in favor of the advisor and wealth manager and what's not in favor of the wealth manager and advisor. And I realized really quickly there's just not a lot of information on a really important topic, you know, and I think it's very fitting that you called this Plan B, because I mean, I was your plan B, John. You had an original guest, and you've done some homework.
You shouldn't say that. We don't need everybody to know that.
Of time. And so, you know, it is always important to have that plan B, because a lot of times that plan B can become the plan A and the best plan. And so that's really what you know, what I do and what I help advisors do. And you know, the founding kind of principles of my firm is good people do great things. And no matter what client or firm you are working with, you have to start with the people. Understand where they came from, where they're at, and where they're going. And that will give you a really good idea as to where their firm is going to go. But it always starts with the people.
That's so important. And I love that mindset, because the people ultimately are driving the advisor relationships, the client relationships. That's who you're shaking hands with. That's who you're coming to agreements with. But obviously when it comes down to, putting things in writing and the agreements that are in place, things can shift and move around, even on an individual basis. You see partnerships that dissolve. So obviously it can become kind of tricky having a plan B if it's a smaller, tighter knit, just, single partnership or things like that. But, in your mind, I kind of alluded to this before, Jason, in terms of, you put your hand in the air, the wolves are going to come out. That's, one of the challenges is everybody only has so much time. And so you're going to hear from recruiters, you're going to hear from broker dealers, you're going to hear from the aggregator RIAs about why their shit doesn't stink. No offense, but that's what we're going to hear. And that's what a lot of advisors think. So what do you see as a good way to sort through that noise as a starting point, if I know that I either need a plan B, or if I need to maybe refine my plan B?
Yeah, really good question. And I think you have to look at that in two different lenses: a revolution lens or an evolution lens. And it's really going to be dictated by that individual advisor. And so when I think of revolution, I think a systematic issue with how you are told to do business or how you have to conduct business. So I think, more likely a W-2 based advisor might go through this type of situation. Then you have the evolutionary piece of it. That is more likely going to be someone that's already established and independent, that kind of looks at their business and say, how do I make this boat go faster? How do I make it more efficient? And so the revolution versus the evolution are going to require a little bit different nuances. So the revolution, let's start with, an advisor that might be at a large wirehouse, W-2 employee, does not own their book of business, but has built those relationships with those clients. It might be dictated on how they get compensated with what products they sell, or what financial plans or other banking products that might necessarily be in the best interest of the client or not. And so you have to take a couple of extra steps when you're going through a revolution like that. I mean, this country went through it, right? And there was a reason why, and it was because of the systematic issues that they were facing. And I think advisors that are looking to make that jump from an employee to a business owner have to kind of go through that revolution. Now, let's say you get to that point and you're either independent advisor, RIA, or hybrid. Now you're at that point where, how do I get better? How do we get from point A to point B? And that could be, I'm at 100 million and I want to get to a billion. Or it could be, I'm at a head count of 10 people and I'd like to get to 20. But it's a constant evolution, right? And it's looking at it from the lens of, how do you get better? And in this instance, when we're talking about a broker dealer change or a custodian change, you have to establish, like, does your current partner satisfy all of your needs, right? Or from a compliance standpoint, from a technology standpoint, from a back office standpoint, is your current partner assessing and taking care of those needs? If not, then that is really the time to take a look at some of the other options that are out there. And I think as a business owner and a fiduciary, it really is in your best interest and your client's best interest to know what the best options are out there, right? And so everything that we do, like I said, really starts with either, hey, are we going to be going through a revolution or an evolution? And then from there, we can kind of dictate what that process would be in order to, really check all the boxes, so you're making the best move for your firm and for your business.
Speaking of checking all the boxes, it's paralysis analysis in many cases. There are so many different options out there in terms of firms, and then now a growing number of options in terms of affiliation. How do you start going through that list and sorting down to what's going to be the best fit for your clients and your practice?
Yeah. So, I think you kind of look at each extreme in the spectrum. So one end of the spectrum, you have the W-2 employee-based advisor. And then on the very other end of the spectrum, you have a pure RIA. And then in the middle, you have an independent broker-dealer, and then there's some variations within each one of those. But those are really the three, higher up affiliation type models. And each broker-dealer is going to have kind of their own flavor to that. But I think, bottom line is do they check the boxes for the technology, the trading, and the compliance? I think that's some of the things that you have to start with first. And each spectrum has a different set of advisors that it makes sense for. Some advisors love the W-2 model and thrive in that, and that's where they need to be. Others are on the other end that want all of the control, whether it's from a compliance standpoint down to the marketing standpoint. So they might want to be more of an RIA, or someone more in the middle of the road, right? Where they have an independent business, and they might want to use some of the resources of the broker dealer, but have full ownership of their clients. And so, you've got to start with those three higher level models. And then that can kind of identify, hey, what are the best options within each one of those? And so, I think there's really, three big steps when you are kind of formulating that plan B. So we've kind of gone through, hey, are we looking for a revolution or evolution, right? Now that we've determined, and in this example, let's use evolution, all right? So how do I make the boat go faster, right? How do I make my firm better, faster, more nimble, and my clients happier, right? And so when we're, putting that plan B together, there's really, three phases. So the first one, I'm sure a lot of people on this call have gone through, is the due diligence phase, right? That is really establishing the table stakes for your business to know that you are matching with that right partner. So some of the things that come to mind is, technology, understanding the integration of the tech stack with the vendors that you like to utilize, and making sure there's a continuity in place when you do make that transition. In the past, there's been some firms that have had issues with porting data from an eMoney or MoneyGuard or some of those vendors, and that can cause quite a huge disruption once you do make that transition. And so it's little nuances like that that you really want to make sure you have a clear understanding before you sign your name on the dotted line. Additional things are trading. Do you have the services that you need, whether you're trading just equities, ETFs, and mutual funds, or do you like to do fixed income? Do they have a good desk? Do they have structured notes and products and alternatives? Really understanding how that all integrates will help you, understand how their technology is. And then two, compliance and back office, right? That can usually some of the biggest headaches in any advisor's life, right? And getting a clear picture and understanding of how each one of those works inside of that firm you're looking to partner with will save you a lot of headache. And then obviously economics and contract negotiation, right? So understanding, apples to apples comparison on what your net is. We hear payouts and upfront money and everything like that, but in the end, what's most important is what is your net. And it's amazing how many firms and advisors can't tell you that. And they can't really, you can't compare that to apples with apples. And they do that for a reason. So truly understanding the economic landscape, and not just, hey, if I'm doing $1 million in revenue right now, what does it look like when I'm at 2, 3, 4, 5 million? So you've got to really have a clear understanding of that economic piece. And so that's really kind of the dating phase, I guess you would call it, in the due diligence process, is really understanding of, hey, is this partner worth pursuing? And then if we say, hey, yes, it is, let's call this the engagement phase, right? Like Beyonce said, you got to put a ring on it, right? And this really is the transition prep piece, right? And you have to look at it from two different angles: prepping you as the advisor, and then prepping your book of business for that transition, right? So prepping the advisor is really the compliance approval process. And that can take a couple of weeks to a couple of months. Really all depends on what your CRD and U form look like and what your background check comes back as. And so that is something that you're going to want to get out of the way first, right? That can hold up a lot of different elements of the transition prep process. So getting through the compliance approval process is of the utmost importance when you do identify that good partner. And then the prepping of the book of business.
Actually,
Obviously.
Jason, real quick on that front, because I remember when we worked together, you ran into a couple of circumstances where there was a ding on a U4, things like that. Putting
Mhm.
on your advisor hat, is that something that somebody should try to look at first before they even go through the rest? Just make sure that if maybe they have a disclosure that they've been able to explain and go through, but just in case it comes up as an issue, is that something that maybe should go to the
Yes,
top
I
of the
think that's
list?
very wise. I mean, if you go to just brokercheck.org, you can pull your U4 and CRD, and it's always good to know what's on there. And unfortunately, within this industry, everything is out in the open. I mean, I've seen instances where guys had, a misdemeanor from, stealing gum in 1983. And that's on there before. So, knowing what's on there and being able to have an explanation, because that is going to come up in the compliance approval process. And that can be the logjam in the compliance approval process, is when things like that come up. And in some instances, you might have a disclosable event that your broker dealer in the past told you that you didn't need to disclose, and then your potential new partner might say, hey, you're going to have this disclosed when we move your licenses. And it could, hold some things up, or it could, open you up to a whole new slew of things. I mean, I've seen, situations where you have to advise the person in front of you saying, hey, you cannot move, or you might be locked out of this industry because of some of the things that could come about under U4 and CRD. I think broker dealers, in the past can really, checker up someone's U5, which is the language that's released when you move broker dealers, that may or may not help you in your cause. I think, there's been some scrutiny with FINRA and the SEC, so I think you're seeing that
Is
change.
there a way to preemptively address that without, I guess, calling attention that, hey, I'm looking, somewhere else? Or is there any way that you could do that ahead of time, or is it just going to be whoever you're with is you just gotta, I guess, depend on how they're going to handle that?
There's some instances where, they're going to be like, hey, we've seen this before. And in other instances, they're going to say, hey, we're going to have to do some more research into this specific situation. So if you've got disclosed bankruptcies or tax liens, settlements and things like that that are closed, broker dealers have seen that. It's when you get into instances under U4, termination for cause, forging signatures, misappropriating funds. That's when you're going to have a serious explanation as to why that occurred and why it won't happen. There's other instances too, and this probably happened more in the past with like annuities and some alternatives. Is I've seen one issue and have 14 U4 disclosures related back to like a prudential annuity, and I'm not just targeting a specific firm, but that has happened in the past where you pull someone's U4, there's 14 disclosures, but they're all based on one issue, right? And so having to weed through all of that, and a lot of times that is no fault through the advisor, and it's a lot of times on the broker dealer and the product sponsor that would happen.
Well, and I didn't mean to get too far down the rabbit hole of specifically the compliance. This is again another one of these topics that we can just keep picking apart as a
Yeah,
recurring. So there's so many different aspects and things
truly.
to consider. One thing I did want to address during this live stream portion is you mentioned earlier leveraging the resources of a broker dealer, acquiring firm, or your future potential partner. As private equity enters into the field, we're seeing multiples continue going up, and the opportunity for dollars to be out there, and you get some of these sweetheart deals. Obviously, we're all aware that golden handcuffs exist, but what are some key watch outs to make sure that when you're leveraging those resources, let's say it's just strictly transition assistance, that you're
Mm-hmm.
not giving away too much?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So you mentioned private equity, first, obviously there's a lot of money flowing into this industry. There's not too many service-based industries that have a net margin of over 60%. So it's no wonder why private equity is wanting to get their hands inside of this business. And, we've seen multiples go up from a revenue standpoint and EBITDA standpoint in the M&A space, but you're also seeing obviously those transition packages increase greatly over the last couple of years. From my understanding, 20 years ago, there really wasn't transition assistance packages, and now, depending on the firm, it can be from anywhere from 50 to 150% of your GDC in an independent type setting. And wirehouses, you're looking at 3 to 4 times your GDC, depending on the wirehouse. But you mentioned the golden handcuffs, right? That's the devil's in the details, right? And so any one of those type of deals is going to have probably a forgivable note attached to it, right? And those are going to be from anywhere from 5 to 10 years, depending on that broker dealer. And really what that forgivable note is tied to is that upfront money that you're going to get. And it's going to stipulate saying, as long as you are with the firm and you port your business over and you stay with the 5 or the 10 years, we're going to forgive a portion of that money every year. And then that's what you have to claim. But if you leave in year 4 out of 10, they're going to call back all of that money. And so, that's why it's so important when you are looking to make this decision. I mean, it's like buying a house. You would never buy a house without an agent. And that's where I see, consultants and recruiters like myself really, playing a pivotal role, right? Like we've seen it, we've done it. And so we can help you navigate that complex process, because 5 or 10 years, that can be a long time. That can have a very detrimental effect on your business if you don't choose the right partner. And that forgivable money and that forgivable note is what's really tying you to that broker dealer. So it is truly important to understand that contract language. And each broker dealer is going to do it differently. They could give it all to you up front. There could be different revenue hurdles or production requirements that can unlock even more money, or it could lower your payout or take money back if you don't hit those hurdles. And so that's where you want to have a very, very clear understanding and kind of back into like that due diligence process. That's where you're going to identify all of that and have it all laid out so you know exactly what you're getting into.
So many different variables, considerations. That's just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to finding a partner, in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of cases, that's going to make sense because there's just so much going on. It's obviously what you're doing, what you're looking to do. What is the best process for finding as objective a partner as possible? And I guess, given your transition, your personal transition, I don't know if you want to spend a moment or talk about the differences between third party versus a in-house recruiter situation.
Yeah. So think about it. A corporate recruiter is a employee of that specific broker dealer, right? So they are representing that specific broker dealer. In my world, with third-party consultants and recruiters that represent you, the advisor. So you see that difference in dynamic, right? We represent you, the advisor. We win when you win, right? And so we are fully aligned on the third-party side of things. But if you look at the landscape, only a handful of third-party consultants and recruiters have done the corporate recruiting piece of it and have been there side by side with the advisor through what can be a very exciting but also stressful time, right? There are so many moving parts. And so really, partnering with somebody that has done it before and that has worked with all of the broker dealers and understands the benefits of each one, but more importantly, how it relates back to the advisor as a person, right? I mean, we are in a very rare industry where the lines are really blurred between personal and business, right? Clients are friends, friends are clients. Family is clients. Clients become family. I mean, it's a very, very rare industry. And so you have to really look at it from that standpoint as well. But like I always say, it kind of goes back to the person that you're talking to and understanding where they're coming from.
Well, and I appreciate you referencing the fact that you were a plan B. And like I said, you didn't necessarily have to do that. But as you know, you and I have a personal relationship. And I think that what you can bring to the table specifically, Jason, is something that is not just valuable for our members, but for advisors well beyond the community. At the same time, everybody's going to have to make that determination for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're not here to endorse you or anyone else, but I believe that you personally can offer a great deal of value and insight. That's why I've referred advisors to you both when we were at LPL and even today. So what's the best way for somebody to learn a little bit about Arlington Group, yourself, and get in touch with you if they're interested in picking your brain and learning a little bit more?
Yeah. So my website is arlingtongrp.com. And so that'll link you to some of the resources that my firm offers, and I'll have all my contact information on there as well. And I think most importantly is the live in person networking events. I like to make myself as available as possible here locally. But now I'm on a national
So you
scale.
better show up at ours then, by the way. But anyway.
I plan on being at all of them. And so I'm very easy to access. And so from that standpoint, I think a follow up with my email address and my cell phone would probably go a long way for everybody. But I think too, something I really want to emphasize is the confidentiality and the trust piece of this is so truly important, right? I've worked with a lot of advisors and have played matchmaker for a lot of different firms, and trust is, if this doesn't exist without trust and confidentiality. And so I think I just want to emphasize that point is, if you come to me, this is only between us until you tell me otherwise. And so that is a very important part of what we do.
So important. And again, I just go with my head, just starts spinning with all these different situations that I've encountered over my career. I know of certain situations where that confidentiality was disclosed in the same capacity, but was broken. And an OSJ was made aware, and it's all, I don't know how they found out about it, but anyway, that's such an important point, right? And it goes back to what you were saying as far as who you align with. It comes down to the people and the trust. Just the same thing as you're going to do with your clients, right? They have to trust you. You have to trust your partners. You have to trust the people in the back office. So we're going to go ahead and shut off the public live stream. Once again, the way that we are running things, Good Advisors Finish First Community, the first Wednesday of the month, we do a public live stream called our Desk Side Chat, about 20-minute one-on-one interview. That's followed by a backstage pass open roundtable with members of our community, with our featured guest. All other Wednesdays are Hear from a Peer events, which are advisor hosted topic discussions. If anyone is interested in learning more about our community, again, goodadvisorsfinishfirst.com. We're currently offering a 30-day free trial membership for anyone, for approved applicants who are interested in learning more about what we're doing. And if you would like to simply chat with one of our existing members, let us know that as well. We're building a larger and larger network of advocates, as you are, Jason, for your business. And really, that's what it ultimately comes down to, is where does that trust come from? I can say, I'll put your shoes on. Jason can say, somebody else can say that, but what we're trying to do is, it's Hear from a Peer. The reason that vernacular exists is, what does someone who's actually wearing your shoes, who do they trust? What do they do? So Jason, thank you so much for your time today. Again, I think this is something we're going to return to again here in the near future.
I'd love to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. All right, live stream is severed. What do you think? Is that fun?
Yeah.
How many people are still paying attention? Turn your cameras on if you're still here, please. And Melissa asked a question. So Melissa, you can be first out of the gate if you want. Or maybe she took a call just now. Do you see the question there? What is it? Oh, she says on a call. Well, maybe we'll come back to that then when she's ready. So Cody, thanks for jumping on. Lorenzo, any questions from anybody who is unable to put your camera on? Feel free to either unmute or throw something in the chat. But Cody, Lorenzo, since you guys flipped on, any questions, perspectives?
I got a quick question for Jason. Jason, I had a mutual agreement to separate from services from a previous firm on my U5. And of course, that always comes up. It's like, okay, what happened?
Hey, real quick, and Lorenzo, just so you know, and for everybody, this is now member only. There will be a replay of this, so obviously, it's a safer environment as far as disclosure. But then, obviously, if you go further, we'll pick up the phone. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I gotcha. So, won't disclose the name of the firm, but they gave me a line of crap to get me over there. And when we looked behind the veil and I was actually there, I saw nothing was there. We basically agreed that we were going to part ways. But that comes up every time I change firms. Is there anything I can proactively do to get that changed?
So you're saying the U5 language, is it just say terminated, or is there specific language that you're more concerned about on that? Or is it just the fact that like the separation comes up? Because
Yeah,
unfortunately, like in the compliance approval process, they have to go through each one of those and have to understand like is this going to be a liability from the broker dealer standpoint if we bring on this advisor? That's the lens that is being looked at. And so anytime that you have something like that on there, I mean, you could work with an SEC and FINRA attorney. FINRA is right now going through quite a few different lawsuits against the validity and their unconstitutional overreach, right? So I think a lot of things are being looked at, especially in the U4 and U5 space for advisors. But for you personally, it's always good to at least have like maybe a 3 or 4 sentence written out blurb as to what had happened, because the question is going to come up.
Sure.
And so you can just send it on to them. You have the points that you want to make, and just know that it's going to come up. But it really is because the broker dealer is trying to identify what liability that they have on their side to bring you on.
Yeah, I appreciated your bubblegum comment. I had a college library book that went into collections.
Oh God!
It shows up on my on my whatever.
On your U4, really?
Yeah, it's amazing some things they put on.
It's not on my U4.
Has nothing to do with what you do.
It's on the SEC side, right? But it's not on my U4 side. It's not on the FINRA side. It's just on the SEC side.
Well, it will come up in the CRD. So the
CRD is where it is. Yes.
Yeah. So the CRD is like the full X-ray of what the regulators have. The U4 has somewhat limited information on there.
But it's just hysterical because as soon as I went into collections, I actually bought them a brand new book. And it was like, I'm good. But I have to, just like you said, I have a file with receipts and notices and dates and everything right there. It's just hysterical.
Yeah. And I think kind of back to that FINRA, some of the issues that they're being accused of is like, does that necessarily have any bearing on how you run your business and more importantly, how you take care of your clients, right? And something like that, I think it's almost like term limits in Congress. Like they're looking at that as like, do we really need to have something that happened 20 years ago on this person's CRD or U4?
Right.
I don't.
I want to maybe come back to that if we can, but for now, Melissa, are you able to, or you are unmuted? So do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
You could turn your camera back on if you want. Sorry.
I think I tried and it said, you stopped me.
Oh, because I hit it before. Sorry. That was me. My bad. Sorry.
Not a problem. So just question, we're considering a transition here within the next year. And I know what transition rate looked like 2-3 years ago, but I don't know what it's looking like now whenever somebody's been converting a book in the last 6 months to a year. What percentage of client capture are they seeing? I know it depends on business too. I'm independent, just moving.
So if you look at like an independent financial advisor, I always truly believe the relationship is directly with the client. So there's very little attrition. And especially when you lay it out to them and say, hey, like, just like I have to provide value to you every day, my broker dealer needs to do the same thing. And when they are not, I have to go out and find a better option so I can take care of you from a fiduciary standpoint. And when you lay it out like that, especially like the clients that are business owners, like they really understand that and get that. And so, and you have to look at it too. I mean, obviously market cycles, we've been in a really tough patch because, even though NASDAQ's up 20%, all your clients' safe money and bonds are, taking a haircut of 5 or 10%, which that's a tough conversation, I'm sure, with a client right now. So there's never a good time to move and there's never a bad time to move. It's all about the team you put in place and how you execute on that. And if you have the right team and the right execution plan, I would say over a year standpoint, you're going to see 100% capture and probably find some new assets. It's amazing what happens when you go through your book with a fine-tooth comb and have conversations with clients that you haven't really spoken depth with in a while. oh, I've got this 100K at Schwab that I just was trying to figure out, maybe I can roll it over to you. So I see a lot of success, but the markets are going to go up, the markets are going to go down, right? And it's all about the strategy and plan that you put in place.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Lorenzo, be selfish if you want to keep going. Or, I mean, or Cody, if you want to jump in, or Melissa, you too, obviously.
Well, I did have two more predictions that I wouldn't mind throwing out to you, to the group, if you wouldn't mind. Maybe that'll start some conversation too. So I think in probably the next 20 or 30 years, this is going to be a female dominated industry. I look at, some of the situations like, relatives and my mother and grandmother, were in when it came to money. And, it really didn't make sense to have the advisors that they have. And if you look at it, females live longer than males, and they're left holding a lot of the large financial decisions. And I really think the financial advisor population is really going to be reflective of what the client population looks like that. So I think it is going to be a female dominated industry in the next 20 or 30 years. And the other thing that I think is going to happen is the broker dealer itself is most likely going to go away and probably be more of a technology partner, because I truly believe we're getting to the point in this industry where we can have self-custody. So think about a decentralized ledger system, probably something like the blockchain, that instead of FINRA SEC coming into your office and doing a full examination, you send them a flash drive with every single trade, email, conversation, and note that you have on your clients. And so the broker dealer and custodian are going to look much different. And I believe they're going to be more of a technology partner. And if some of the changes with FINRA occur, it is probably going to be even more advantageous to have self-custody because of what that infrastructure can provide. So maybe that might stir some conversation, but those are my two kind of big predictions for the industry over the next, call it 20 or 30 years.
My comment to that is, thank God I don't have 20 or 30 years left in me. I'll be out well before all that happens.
It's funny. A lot of times, the more things change, the more they stay the same as well. So, but it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I think, if anything, it's an exciting time, and the industry too is consolidating at a rapid pace too. So that's giving advisors, more options and less options at the same time. So that's why it is so important to have a community like this, like-minded individuals that you can bounce, ideas off of. But more importantly, it probably walked in your shoes or walking in another set of shoes that you're looking to go into as well.
Hey, this is member only here, so make sure you tell others that, please. Outside. Anyway, Lorenzo, go ahead. Were you going to chime in?
Yeah, what was I going to say? So I just had to do all my stuff. I dropped my securities licenses Jan 1. And now we can go from 2 years to 5 years without having to retake the exams.
Okay.
Do you have any predictions on that? Is that just to see if the broker-dealer model is going to be gone in 5 years, or what do you think's going on there?
I think that's going to be dictated by the SRO, right? The self-regulatory organization, because SEC stipulates that if you're going to enact securities, that you have to be a member of an SRO, but it doesn't stipulate that the SRO has to be FINRA. So as far as the licensing, as it stands right now, I think it's going to continue. But if we get to that point, that I believe we're going to get to that self-custody model and compliance, we're going to be on your side of things. What that licensing might look like is going to look a little bit different, right? But as far as like the continuing education, and it's instead of 2 and 5 years, like that's going to stay as long as FINRA is the main SRO. Now, if another SRO comes about and tries to make an advisor's life easier, which I think that's what an SRO should do, that compliance and licensing could look a little bit different, right? So, but as to what that is going to look like, I couldn't tell you.
Hey, Lorenzo, was that scary to drop your licenses? Did you feel a little like, oh,
I'm gonna let you know that it was the most painful thing I've ever done in my life. I've been licensed since I was 20, so it was a big step, and I thought it would be liberating. So my RIA affiliation, it's really made for RIAs, for advisors. It's not really made for brokers. But we do have hybrid, kind of eases everybody's path in here. But
Do they have more than one broker dealer relationship, or is it just
right
Cetera?
now they don't, which is horrible. It's just that starts with a C.
Well, we can, again, this is group only, Cetera. So
Cetera, yeah.
what percentage are Cetera reps then across the entire group?
No idea.
Okay.
No idea, but they're dropping like flies. Per the nickname for this C word. So long of the short, because someone in my office is still, so think of it like OSJs, but it's not an OSJ, it's just office affiliations. But because they're still hybrid, I have to register as an NRA, and literally besides the 10 grand or so, or 9 grand, whatever it is for licenses, I have to do everything still. Gifts, books and records, all the continuing ed with them, still have to do compliance, still limited. So I can't sell products that they haven't approved.
You still have the warm hug of the broker dealer around you.
So was it even worth it then to drop the registrations, given that?
Hold on, I can't hear you guys.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can we lose him? Or we lost his mic? Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
I was going to say, so given that, is it even worth it, or what, or at this point, do you think it was worth it to do?
For 2023, it wasn't for my personal situation. However, I have John, we've talked about it, my little study group.
Yeah.
The 12 of us now, I think there's one more person that's left that's hybrid. Everyone else has dropped them, and everybody has sung the praises of dropping their securities licenses.
But given that you have to do it, you have to disclose that, right? Or is that outside the study group? Is it because it's a study group? Do you have to disclose that as an outside business or not?
No, the study group, because they're all Carson folks.
Okay.
Study group. So yeah, it's the broker dealer stuff is they're solving to the lowest common denominator, is what I feel like. I mean, they're this. So for instance, Bomb Video, right?
Yeah.
They won't allow Bomb videos. Carson does, Cetera doesn't. And I'm like, so I'm allowed to have a conversation with somebody. I'm allowed to have a phone call with somebody. And you don't know what I'm saying, and it's their word against my word. But you won't let me have a recorded video of it.
That's archived. And it's funny because that particular service I know of, back when I was at LPL, I know of one advisor who got an official green light compliance approval to use it. And I know of another advisor who didn't, who was declined using specifically Bomb. It was kind of funny.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the official policy is.
Cody,
do you know Bomb, Cody?
I've never heard of it.
Oh, it's cool. You can actually record your face with the presentation behind you and deliver it to a client. And the whole idea is that you can, it's their birthday, their anniversary, whatever, say, hey, happy birthday. Just want to, it's more personal. If you guys study behavioral psychology, you want to get your face in as many things as possible, right? Even if it's recorded, it doesn't matter. Your face has to be there, just not the presentation. Sends a whole different signal. All the good stuff out there. I mean, again, Carson has accepted it. But Cetera's like, now we don't want our people's recommendations on recorded.
Well, that's the thing. It's happy birthday, or it's, benign things like that. Do they allow somebody to go through like a state, like, hey, this is personal to you. Like you can go through a statement, like with a client, like on a video, or somebody could
do it. I don't know. But there's training on what you can and cannot do, right? But basically anything that you can put in an email, because the email is archived, right? And that is part of that file, becomes part of the email.
I mean, you got to be careful about what it says to the client in terms of personalized service and so forth. But holy
Right.
shit, would that be hella efficient if you're able
Oh,
to do
yeah.
that to certain clients? Wow.
Well, I mean, where are we at? We're in almost 2024, and the SROs are so far behind technology and how they're monitoring us, and they're restricting us on so many levels. The clients, it used to be that the clients were way behind us when it came to technology, and some of the things we were using, were presented to us, we couldn't even use with customers. And now it's the opposite. Like our industry is standing still, and they're so restrictive.
Yep. And it's the regulators that are getting
Well,
in
and
the way.
like Jason said, it's catering, it's the lowest common denominator. It's like, how does, I mean, it's what good advisors finish first is let's focus on the good instead of the bad.
Yeah.
But if we look at the bad, is like, they're going to look at it. What's the biggest scumbag piece of shit in the world going to do with this if we allow it? And that's how they're going to write the policy.
Which, by the way, springing off that, did you see Biden's comments on the new DOL fiduciary?
No, I didn't.
Oh, y'all need to go out there and read them.
Do you want to post it in the group?
Yeah, well,
all right. If you don't mind.
it's,
actually
Lorenzo, are
have
you
it
new
up.
to the group? Lorenzo, are you new to the group?
Yeah, I am.
Ah, yay. Hear from our peers are awesome.
There you go.
Oh,
That's
you
the
got it in
actual
there.
release.
There
I
it
just
is.
happen to have it up on my other screen here.
Uh-huh.
So
He needs to participate in a good advisor spin us first, and maybe his comments will change.
Who's that? Biden?
Yeah.
So are any of you folks retirement focused, like 401k retirement focused? So this is the whole fiduciary. I mean, I've been involved with this conversation since the Miller fee bill. If anybody Congressman Miller, Northern California, all 9 yards. And he said, hey, I didn't agree with a lot of things that he said, but I did agree with, side of a can of soup. That's what the fee should be. And that would, what people would understand. And the insurance lobby actually was able to pressure them and say, if you made it that simple, so like sodium, protein, sugars, right? Record keeping fees, advisor fees, others, is if you made it that simple, then all participants would know what they're paying. And that would confuse them, and it would cause less people to participate in the retirement system.
Interesting.
Official public statement.
Wow.
I mean, the biggest difference now is they're trying to really just sort of broaden the depth on our rollovers, right? And
well, that's an interesting one. We've talked about that. Lincoln's policy and LPL's policy are different in terms of
they're much
rollovers.
different. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Cetera's is too.
Yeah, every broker dealer has a different version of that.
So all we're going to do is kill more trees for stuff that they're not going to read anyways.
Yeah.
No clear disclosure.
Keeps the attorneys busy.
Yeah, this is how much you're paying to do this. This is the difference. Do you think it's worth it? Yes or no? Move on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people want.
Well, our broker dealer's now saying that they won't, if the client wants consolidation and they want to roll for consolidation and they want to have a local financial advisor, that's not enough.
So I just had a client actually come to the door here, guys, so I have to take off. But this has been great. John, we'll talk.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks, Lorenzo. It's good to meet you.
Thanks for your time today.
I'm a Zoom waiver.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. Cody, you've been quiet.
I have been. I really don't have a lot to ask Jason because Jason works with us. We've actually hired Jason to be a part of our team at Discovery Financial. So I get to talk to Jason a couple times a month, if not more than that. So Jason was a great resource when he was at LPL. He helped us bring a couple advisors on to our group. And then after he separated from LPL, he reached out to us and we hired him. So we work very closely. I got a call with him in 40 minutes, I think.
You gonna change, Jason?
Now I told my daughters I was wearing it to work all day. So
Jason, we don't care what you look like. Just keep doing what you're doing.
I get shit all the time. Like I said, I rarely will throw on a jacket and people are like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah, when I logged in and I saw you in a jacket, I thought, who is on today?
Well, that was the best, was like I don't know, this was a while ago where I was at Starbucks or something. You're like, what, do you got a date? Yeah, actually I do. So Um, I guess we can wrap up here. Melissa, do you have anything else since we're on,
In
or-
fact, I'm like Lorenzo. I've got a customer coming in about 9 minutes, so I'm gonna have to hop off, but I appreciate everybody today. Thank you.
Can I steal you for
you.
1 minute or not? Or you gotta go
What?
right away? Can I steal you for 1 minute real quick or hold
Yeah.
on to you?
Yeah.
So I guess I think I had shared this before. Inside the group coming out of that steering committee meeting, we're looking at potentially 3 verticals: a premium mastermind, a contributor corner space, and then a M&A dedicated space. Jason is one of the people that could potentially fit into that. There's others that are out there. And what
Yeah.
I'm going to do at some point is throw it out to the community and say, hey, who should we look to partner with, throw names or whatever. Cody, obviously, if it'll be up to you, but you'll probably say, yeah, we work with Jason, he's great. Or, we recommend, this would be one of the people. I guess I wanted to grab you for a minute, just to keep that in the back of your mind, Melissa, in terms of if there's anyone or how that might go. Anyway, that's it. So,
Awesome. Sure thing.
all right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Well, Jason, I'll see you in 40 minutes.